Welcome to All Things Greater Burlington, where you will hear from the movers, shakers, and changemakers that are moving Greater Burlington forward. Here is your host, Stephen Brody.
Welcome to All Things Greater Burlington. Beckman Heritage Farm is located just 8 miles north of Burlington off Flint Bottom. It is easily accessible from highways 61 and 34. The original farm is currently 140 acres and borders Flint Creek and is located along the Flint River Trail system. The Beckmans live on a 240-acre neighboring property that connects to the original farm on its northern boundary. The family actively supports conservation efforts through continued improvements to water quality and timber management. The farm has over 30 acres of native prairie grass that is part of the Conservation Reserve Program and 6 acres of pollinating plants to support bees and butterflies. There is a trail system for visitors that leads to the natural spring that is surrounded by limestone that has been hollowed out over thousands of years. And one of the biggest accomplishments and achievements of the Beckman Heritage Farm is that it has been around 175 years. So what a pleasure to have with us today, Doug and Heather Beckman, owners of Beckman Heritage Farm. Doug and Heather, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Congratulations, 175 years. I mean, normally we like to celebrate a 50 year, a 75, 100. 175 years is an incredible achievement.
Yeah, it's kind of been mind-blowing for us just to kind of grasp that this year, and how much has changed and the events that have happened in history throughout that time frame.
Right. If anybody goes to your website, you've got a wonderful historical timeline that really speaks to that as to when the farm kind of got started and other main historical events that have taken place along the way.
Yeah, we had a great time kind of piecing that together, looking through some of the abstracts and some of the documents that came along the way, and some of those facts and were just fun to put together, and kind of looking at the history even of Des Moines County, some of the things that have happened from that time forward.
Yeah, and it's fascinating, Heather. That this is a generational farming operation, and to be able to last so long is really a testament.
It's kind of mind-blowing. It's amazing just to kind of, like he said, when you look into the history of these things and you start looking at even just the surrounding histories, and you go down rabbit holes almost.
Yeah.
You look into one thing and the next thing you know, you're looking at history of roads, or just it's incredible just to kind of, and he's more involved with that kind of stuff, and he'll just kind of show me tidbits here and there, and it's like, oh, this is something that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and obviously the Beckman name has been associated all these years. Heather, did you have a farming background at all?
I did not.
Okay.
I married into this. So no, I grew up in Burlington.
Uh-huh.
We lived in town. My folks, my dad was a laborer, and my mom, she cuts hair for a living, so she does that. And so no, not at all.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us, I don't know if there's such a thing as a typical day at a farm, but what typically would happen? Let's say, I mean, I don't know when this is going to air, but let's say this is the fall. So when would your day start?
And so I actually work off the farm.
Okay.
We call this a hobby. Sometimes I think it's a labor of love with the hours that are put into this.
Okay.
But, we do farm part-time. We do corn and soybeans out there, along with all the maintenance and everything that goes with it. And so outside of my full-time job, it does feel like a full-time job on the farm. With that amount of vast property, along with buildings and things that go along with it. This time of year, things are kind of winding down. We've got the crops that have come out of the fields, and we'll be doing a lot of maintenance throughout the winter and planning and putting some projects together that we've been putting off. So
Yeah.
um,
Is your property big enough where you can do both corn and soybeans at the same time? Because I know a lot of different locations will alternate.
yeah, we do rotational crops, and so we're about half and half
Yeah.
doing both.
Is there something that distinguishes you? Being around for so long, is there something that you really focus or specialize in?
So the farm itself is it still has that old charm and still has some period buildings on it
Okay.
to where we can still feel that we're in a historical era, along with some modern conveniences along the way. So it was kind of our goal when we started to renovate some of the buildings is to keep that historical value to them, keep the property to where, it's kind of it's a venue, but it's also almost an educational visit where we can kind of step back, we can see the old barns, we can tell stories to people that come out about how farming was 175 years ago. And even along the way, all the advances that have come with it to where
Yeah.
we're at today. So we've tried to keep it simple on the original 140 acre farm. But we've also wanted to make it to where we can invite people out. We can share this with other people. We can tell the stories. And our story isn't just our story. It's really the story of the foundation of Iowa and the Midwest.
Yeah.
The coming to Iowa, immigrating here, our family coming here and settling down and starting a farm, probably something they did in Germany. So we just enjoy telling that story and having a place to do so.
And I saw on the website that, as you mentioned, you can have tours that will show up. So talk about that, Heather. Like if a tour group wants to come to the farm, what can they expect to see there?
So we have what we call the original barn, which I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, but we believe is the original barn. It's a pre-Civil War. So we had the barn.
Yeah, we had the Iowa Barn Foundation.
Iowa Barn Foundation come out, and so he was kind of poking around in the barn, and he kind of thought it looked like it'd be pre-Civil War. So we have that out there.
That's got to be fascinating for somebody. It's like, how do you know
Yeah.
to go out there and say, okay, this looks like 1840s, 1850s?
Right. Yeah. I would not have known, but apparently they used axes to square off the timber that they would have harvested from the ground nearby to build the building.
Yeah.
And like nails and screws. They didn't use anything. They used wood nails. So they would fashion, I guess, dowel type pieces of wood to put together, the larger timbers to hold it together.
Okay.
So,
all right.
yeah. We have a summer kitchen, which is kind of my little baby. It's one of the smaller buildings on the property, but we just got done. We put a new roof on it, and we have painted the inside of it to brighten it up. But it's just a simple building that would have had a stove in there, and they would have used to cook in the summer.
Yeah.
So,
do you have folks that dress up where it makes it like living history?
no, we don't do that. Although I think it might be fun sometimes, just to. I mean, I like that kind of stuff, but we've yet to do that. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Doug, it looks like you're on.
Yeah, and we're just kind of getting our feet wet. So we're constantly talking about ideas. What direction do we take this? Obviously we want to farm.
Yeah.
And so that's focus number one. But the second is, how do we share this with other people, and why not? We've got this great property. It's close to Burlington, to where you pop off Flint Bottom Road and you go a mile and you're on a farm. And we have people that come out that have never been on a farm, and we start to tell these stories, and just simple stories about this is how they constructed this barn. And it is kind of mind blowing to some people. such primitive techniques back then that it would have taken. We also have people that grew up on farms that come out, and maybe some of their old barns and outbuildings have disappeared over the years, but we can share that with them.
Yeah.
But it's just a quiet, serene place out there where we host a craft show out there. This is the third year
Okay.
that we've done it. And one couple that was out, I think the first year, we said, "Were you satisfied with the event?" And they said, "We just enjoyed coming out to the country and hanging out for a couple days, and we don't mind if we really sold anything." So
It's a nice venue then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you were recognized, we were talking, in 2016 as a heritage farm. And so that's a 150-year distinction. Who was it that who has the oversight on that?
So the Iowa Farm Bureau and the Iowa Department of Agriculture hosts that award every year.
Okay.
Those are awards that are given out at the state fair. They have two designations. They have a Century Farm Award, where if a farm has been in the same family for 100 years.
Yeah.
And then they started a 150-year Heritage Farm Award to recognize those families. We were kind of got behind there, and we didn't make it for the 100 or the 150, so we kind of were playing catch up.
Yeah.
So we took at that time Heather, and we had two kids at the time, and then my grandpa, who was born there on the farm, was able to join us. So
Yeah.
we went to the state fair and received that designation. So
That's outstanding. Now, do you have any idea how many heritage farms there might be in Iowa?
they do have a listing on the, I believe it's on the Iowa Department of Agriculture website, where there is a listing of all the awards that have been presented.
Yeah.
And I don't know offhand how many there are.
Yeah.
We kind of laughed when we received that award. We said, well, someday our kids, I guess, will have to accept the 200-year award. So,
Yeah. Well, there's no reason why that can't happen.
That's the hope.
I would think there's, maybe just a handful that would be of a heritage. I mean, that's, again, 150 years in the same family to be able to do the same stuff is a testament by all means. Now, you were talking about, well, I talked about in here that you're very important. You actively support conservation efforts through improvements to water quality and timber management. Can you take a few moments and talk about what that involves?
Sure. So Flint Creek runs right alongside the western border of that property. And of course, that is an important waterway coming through Des Moines County, flows right into the Mississippi River. So I think farmers as a whole, we care about water quality. And throughout the last several years, there's been a main focus on, how do we protect those waterways from the herbicides and the fertilizers that we put on our fields. So
Yeah.
we have buffer zones along that Flint Creek to try to filter out those nitrates and that getting into that water. The other prairie grasses we have are on fields that years ago that are right on the side of a hill that it was nothing for them just to farm those. We've learned over the years that it's not ideal to farm the hillsides to protect that ground quality. So we have those, and prairie grasses made the decisions to take those out of crop production.
Okay.
Our newest addition is that pollinating field, and it just got planted this year. So hopefully by this next year, we'll start to actually see some evidence of those flowering plants that will help support butterflies and honeybees, because there's been such a decline in those over the years, unfortunately with the use of herbicides and such.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a big push right now to get those habitats out there to help bring those that big important component to farming.
And is that something that you chose to do yourself, or was that something that was brought to your attention and say, we would like you to do this?
We had talked about it for several years. That was something we knew there were some programs out there that were available, and that was something that kind of perked our interest. And so we worked with the USDA on a program that they do provide to help put that together. So we finally were able to make that happen this year.
Right. And you said this is the first year that you're doing the pollination.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. And so far, what are you seeing?
Well, there's a process just to get it established. I mean, these are perennial plants, so we planned it this spring. Des Moines County Conservation Department helped us with that, so we got those planted. It's going to take a year or two for those to actually get established to where we're going to notice that flowering plants out there. So this is kind of just getting it going.
Yeah. And I guess an obvious question I didn't bother to ask is, do you have livestock on this farm as well, or not?
My daughter fancies herself a chicken farmer.
Okay.
But no, we don't have any like cows or any pigs or anything like that. Maybe someday.
Yeah.
Right now, I feel like we just have so much on our plate. We just need to figure out a good balance and a good schedule, especially with the, I mean, she's a year old now, but having a third kid, I feel like it just added so much more of your, it just takes time.
Right.
So, and make sure that we have the time to care for animals properly.
Yeah.
So.
What would you say, here's a loaded question. What would you say would be the biggest challenge that you face operating a farm, especially a farm the size of yours?
Probably the biggest thing is just time management.
Yes, I
you
agree.
know, crops get planted within a certain window. They get harvested in a certain window. So I think we're, like I said earlier, we're part-time. Many of our neighbors who do this full-time definitely are under a lot of pressure. Fighting the weather this time of year now that it's changed.
Yeah, sure.
Back and forth, and especially as farmers out there with livestock, the weather challenges. But probably for us is a time management thing, and then hosting events and starting to get our feet wet, doing some activities out there. Definitely some logistics goes along with all that. So.
You talk about hosting events. What type of events is available for folks if they want to come out there?
Sure. So we've got some graduation parties booked next year. We've got some weddings getting booked next year. We have another barn that Heather didn't touch on, but we kind of call it the barn.
The barn.
The barn.
The barn.
It's an 1895 hay barn that we renovated here in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's just the construction and the interior of that thing is remarkable. The guy that restored it has said he's been working in barns for the last 40, 50 years, and he said it's the coolest barn he's ever been in. It's just has a cathedral feel in it. It's just a basic barn, but it's just a beautiful interior. The outdoors is nice around there, so people are interested in coming out. We have rented it out already where they can have a wedding, you can have a party, family reunion.
Everybody's got to bring their own food, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
You're not ready to do all the cooking.
I'm no
huh?
chef. I can feed my family, but
Okay. Have you got all do you have tables and chairs there as well?
We do. We have tables, chairs. We offer tablecloths, just basic white. There's a basic white backdrop in there. I do have a couple pieces of furniture, just to kind of, I like things pretty.
Yeah.
So just things I've either thrifted or antiqued or whatever. And then things from the barn. I mean, we've got, there wasn't a whole lot left in the barns, but there's a couple of items. We did find a wagon. It's 128 years old.
Yeah, I think we've dated
Oh.
it to 123 years old. We
23,
we
okay.
found the actual wagon box. It was on soul hearses in a barn. and we found the wagon gears that go with it where we live down the road, buried in the weeds. So
It's amazing what you find when you extricate and you hit your
Yeah.
weeds, huh?
and it's a cool old wagon that still has the name of the company, Quincy Electric Wheel Company, on the side,
Nice.
which I think is owned by Titan now. So
Okay. Nice. To get to your farm, is it a paved road or is it a gravel road?
So from Highway 61, it's paved all the way till you get to actually the North Prairie Grove Road, and then it's about a mile on gravel there to get
Okay.
there. And we actually live, we call where the original Heritage Farm is. We call that the farm, quote unquote, and
Okay.
then we actually live on the other parcel, and we just call that the house. So people always
This
get
is so
confused.
original.
Yeah, it's very original. Yeah, I've had people confused. Do you not live on the farm? No, we live on the farm. It's just that's the the parcel that
It's just
is
the house. We
yeah.
live the house.
Yeah, so.
Don't get the two mixed up. You should put that on the website like a Google
Oh
map
yeah.
thing. The house, the farm. Don't get them mixed up.
Right. Yeah.
well, we messed up early on because we had our home address like on the Facebook page, but the farm has a different address. So
Okay.
we had people showing up at our house
Yeah, pulling in
looking
the
for
drive,
the
yeah.
farm, and
Yeah.
so had to get that all sorted.
So when people are actually coming out to all that activity, to the event venue and all that, they're going to the farm.
The farm. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Very, very good. When we had the pandemic a few years ago, did you get impacted at all by that? As farmers, I don't know. I mean, was supply chain issues, did that affect anything at all, or were you able to continue your operations the way that you
Oh, we
normally
continued.
did?
There was some adjusting.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think the biggest hit, and I speak for a lot of farmers, is the costs of materials and
Sure.
Herbicides and fertilizers was a sticker shock for a lot, and just like everything out there with inflation, I think we just had to make some adjustments, and I would say that was probably one of the biggest challenges.
I think for
us.
me that would be the biggest.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
prices went up. Was there delays at all in getting your product there? Did that accompany those price issues as well?
Well, it kind of slowed us down because in 2020 we wanted to start renovating the barn, and contractors were booked out or behind, so we were delayed probably close to 2 years from where we wanted to get things going with that barn.
Oh, wow.
Because we kind of had that vision of getting it put together, but it all came together in 2021, so it was probably meant to be, but. That was probably the biggest thing, was the delays there.
Getting contractors to call us back was just kind of impossible.
Yeah.
And then we wake up one day and you're getting phone calls left and right for, quoting this or that. And
Mhm.
yeah, so it just happened in its own time. So
Have prices normalized at all or not?
I would say, I don't know about normalized.
Have they come down at all?
Maybe we just got to where we accepted.
We accept it. I think that's where we're at. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would require obviously some more review and analyzing of your budget and
Yes.
figuring out.
Where we're pulling resources from. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And with a farm your size as well, where do you draw from in terms of farming it? Do you have like what kind of a staff do you have, a crew to take care of the operations?
So we're kind of we're it.
Two-man band?
Two-man
For
band.
all
but-
those acres?
Yeah.
Really?
Mhm.
But we did hire some help this fall with the fall market and that.
Yeah.
We did hire some part-time help, and I think that was probably a good decision.
Yeah.
You get to where you're just starting to run yourself a little too thin. Getting this all put together, and then doing the fall market show that we do in September. And then we kind of diversified and started some pumpkins 3 years ago. So that was more labor intensive. So that did help. I mean, that was just seasonal help. And as things progress, if we start booking the venue, we may look at some part-time help to assist with setup and cleanup.
So, again, looking on here, the original farm's 140 acres. You live on 240 acres. So, are you farming on both then?
Yes.
Yeah, so the 140 acres that Heather said earlier that we call the farm, that we confuse everybody with.
Yeah.
The 240 acres, my grandparents actually, was their farm
Yeah.
that they bought in the 50s. And so we live in their house.
Uh-huh.
We bought it after from their estate. And so we have our own set of outbuildings and equipment where we live.
Yeah.
And so then we just, between the two properties, we just worked in between the two of them.
Do you plant the same at each property, or do you alternate?
Yeah, so the fields we alternate, just in rotational. So
Right. What plans do you have? Do you have any future plans for the farm? Because it looks like you're wanting to dream. And you've added some new things, so I'm sure you're not done. There's got to be something
no.
else that
No.
that you're thinking about.
Absolutely. I mean, if we had endless resources, we'd do it all.
Yeah.
And time, mostly time.
Yeah.
But I think expanding just like the fall season and getting some more activities put together for families to come out and enjoy, because not everybody has a little bit of ground to let your kids or run around on, or even just take a little walk down to the
Yeah.
spring. Not everybody can, of course there are parks and things, but to be able to, we'd like to put kind of historical signs up, kind of like you see at like Stars Cave, where you have informational boards and things. I think that's kind of up Doug's alley here. He just sharing it.
Yeah.
Being able to share it with the community and being able to, socialize in this at the same time, to get to see the people that live in the community come out and enjoy it. So
Well, I have to say, there's something that's happened this last year with regards to a lot of farms and a lot of orchards have joined the Chamber of Commerce, which of course we're excited about. We're very thankful for that. But so many, like within this last year, it's interesting, but it's great because there is that sector that exists that oftentimes gets overlooked. Right, you're a vital part of the community. You're a vital part of business. Agriculture is so important, and so it's wonderful to be able to have that connection. Obviously, whatever we can do to help promote and celebrate that. What would you say, Doug and Heather, in terms of the joy of farming, the joy of agriculture? You've obviously, it's been in your family for all these years. So kids that are in school right now and maybe looking at a future, what can you say to say that, hey, look at this area, that might be a good future for you?
Well, I think farming is rewarding for many reasons, and I think a lot of it is you see the results from your own two hands and what you're putting into it. A lot of times, what you're getting out of it, and so our kids, our daughter Nora just turned 13. I think growing up, she can appreciate the value of hard work. It's just the two of us and some part-time help, but these things aren't getting done without, day in, day out. Our 6-year-old son absolutely loves the farm, and sometimes he probably loves it more than anyone else in the family.
absolutely.
And so I think it's very rewarding lifestyle that, I think 175 years, they made it this far through hard work and determination. At some point, they had to see a vision of what they wanted to do, And I think at the very, very beginning, it was just a matter of survival. Immigrated this country at that time in history, there wasn't the resources that we have at our fingertips today. So it was out of necessity to start a farm and build barns and did what they did. So I always kind of laugh with Heather about, you go in this barn and she talked about this axe. They stand over a log with an adze and they chop and turn this round tree into a square post. And you think, how did they do these things? And then you think, what else did you have to do back then? We're going to build a barn because we need a barn. So it's mind blowing to just think how simple life was, but at the same time, how hard life was back then.
Yeah. Well, we are just about out of time. So if folks want to know more information about Beckman Heritage Farms, what's the best way for them to find out? You got a website, phone number, social media? What you got?
We have both.
Okay.
So we've got the website beckmanfarm.com. We have a Facebook page and Instagram at Beckman Heritage Farms. So we kind of tell a little story along the way. It's been fun on Facebook and Instagram on kind of the things that we've been doing out there and some of the new things we've added. This last fall, we did a corn maze, and so that was a lot of fun. So if anybody wanted to just keep track of what we're up to, we kind of chronicled those things on them sites.
Well, good. Well, we encourage everybody to go and do that. Doug and Heather Beckman, thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on 175 years, and may it continue to be in the family for generations to come.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe, All Things Greater Burlington, wherever you listen to this. And give us a call at the Greater Burlington Partnership if you have any ideas on future guests you would like to hear interviewed. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on All Things Greater Burlington.
You have been listening to All Things Greater Burlington with Stephen Brody. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to catch all new episodes. To learn more about All Things Greater Burlington, visit greaterburlington.com/ATGB.